Hello, Elena. Thank you so much for sharing space with me today.
Nice to see you too, Terry. Thank you.
So if you don't mind, can you share with us what you do, a little bit about who you are and where you're from?
Oh, great. Okay, so what do? I do quite a few things actually. I'm a fully practicing lawyer, so my day job is pretty much legal job, which is quite intense, and as you can say, takes a lot of mind intensive activity. And as well, in addition to my 3 degrees, I also am working on a psychoanalytic degree. So I'm trying to become a psychoanalyst. And in addition to that, I'm also a practicing yoga practitioner and therapist. So I'm working on that as well. So I have quite a few interests.
And where are you originally from?
Russian. So I was born in St. Petersburg. So I speak Russian. So Buteyko kind of comes as a part of my, I feel that's part of the heritage. So it's quite nice. It was quite nice discovery to discover him.
Beautiful. And where are you at now?
So I've been living in Canada now for the past 25 years. So perfect. I'm in Toronto. Yeah.
So that's quite an eclectic mix of things that you are doing. So what brought you to the method?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I was thinking about it a little bit, how to kind of make it a shorter story. But I learned about Buteyko a few years ago from my yoga teachers. And I looked into it, and it was very complicated, particularly if you look at the Russian sources, quite complex. So I kind of put it in the back burner. And then 2.5 years ago, I actually suffered from a life-threatening disease, which was discovered and solved. But since then, I started thinking about my health differently, because I had always been very, very healthy, supposedly. And so I started thinking about breathing. And COVID brought another challenge of me practicing yoga with my students where you couldn't do it personally. So I started daily breathing yoga sessions for the students of all kinds. And that also kind of brought me closer to the breathing subject. And so that's where I decided that, it's time for me to look at it. And I found out about Breathing Center, and that's how I met Sasha.
Perfect. So you embarked on the level 1 training. How did that go? What was your experience like?
It was a very interesting experience. Now I'm quite grateful, actually, and very thankful for Sasha and for actually my willingness to do it, to be honest. There's so many courses around and there's so much information. So I think I was quite lucky that's a choice I made. It was a very interesting experience. Very helpful. I had started my own practice a month before. So definitely working with someone knowledgeable was really, really helpful. I also learned that it's more like a sort of lifestyle, really. Exercises were really helpful, but I soon discovered that it's almost part of your personal hygiene at some point, like brushing your teeth. And it now surprises me after you reach certain pause level, right? CP, you just think, well, how can you go back, So you try to incorporate it in your life, and that's what I've been doing.
What are some of the milestones for you during your practice that you've achieved?
It's been interesting because I do suffer from allergies at the end of August typically, and so my training with Sasha came at the point where I started feeling worse. So I actually had to go through a real stage of suffering, which was amazingly educational in a sense, because I could test the method and see what happened. I'm back to 30, 40 seconds, and I'm very happy about that. But at some points in time, it's very discouraging because I failed miserably, I thought. But it's not, you quickly realize that it's not about sort of this behavioral approach where you're just trying to do your exercises and increase the breath. It's really about how your body feels. So it allows you a really deep understanding of your body, which is just a wonderful experience to have.
Yeah, I feel like you have a very eclectic mix of background, especially being a lawyer, and then you're kind of over here in the holistic arena. And I feel like you almost wear a couple different hats, you know, like the analytical self and then the more relaxed self. How do you think that when you're in the kind of analytical world, when you're in your lawyer environment, whatever that looks like for you, how has the Buteyko breathing method made an impression in that environment, when you're in that environment, when you're working as a lawyer?
It's interesting you asking that, because your question immediately reminded me that I'm probably over breathing right now tremendously, right? Because there's a certain level of stress. And I have to say that being a lawyer is an extremely stressful enterprise. In conversations with my colleagues, you know, many of them would recognize that they just can't breathe sometimes. And this is overwhelming. So dealing with stress at such intense levels, I could feel the benefit of breathing exercise and breathing practice all the way through. But my practice has been exactly that, which I'm probably not really doing really great at the moment, but really having, you know, spending time on phone conversations and trying not to over breathe all the time or become too excited. So yeah, definitely from this perspective of incredible stress, you suddenly realize that, you know, your yoga or your particular exercises may not even have such an impact because you spend so much time being so stressed.
Mm-hmm. Any other personal insights that you would like to share with the community from your journey?
I think that, as I said, it's mainly, it is surprising that, you know, not all people are really taken by the idea of learning more about their breath. And I know that it might change, and it's probably changing. Buteyko method is a scientific method, right? It's based on science, but it's very much similar to yoga. And it's amazing to me that people do not take to either too much, because yoga kind of still considered to be hobby. No, it's not evidence-based. And yet Buteyko method is more scientifically based, but at the same time, it's really argued against. And so there's a real resistance. So what I would recommend people just consider is that if you just try something and do it regularly and for extended period of time, it's probably going to help. And with Buteyko method particularly, I discovered that it takes a little bit of a diligence and discipline and a frame of mind to see the real benefits of it. So that would be something that I would probably recommend people consider it or start doing it. Just give it a chance.
Was there a flow between what you were learning in yoga and what you were learning in Buteyko?
The yoga that I've been practicing and teaching has been based 100% on breath. So in that sense, it was a logical, extension for me to look at the Buteyko method. What I've discovered with Buteyko method is that the very famous pranayama practice that is offered quite consistently with yoga studios is really something that is quite advanced. And it would be really beneficial, and I think wise, for yoga practitioners to consider Buteyko method as a pre-step to the pranayama practice. I have had very extensive conversations with my yoga colleagues about that. We have very nice groups where we discuss things like this. And we actually did look into the Buteyko method practically and did come to the realization that it brings a lot more benefit than pranayama proper when you offer it to students at very, very beginning levels. So that goes well, really, really well. Now, breath expansion in yoga is a different manner, but I think it goes together. I think once you set your breath to a healthy level, then you can do all kinds of yogic pranayama practices with huger, bigger benefit, I think. So that's how I think about it.
For sure, for sure. Beautiful. So any clients that you come across in whichever world you're working in, do you feel like any knowledge that you've gained from learning the Buteyko method gets carried out now to your clients in certain ways?
Most directly. I do apply reduced breathing in my yoga practice for the reasons that I explained. I've found that it's extremely beneficial for yoga students. Now, it's very difficult to say what exactly brings benefits, but it is obvious that the combined practice brings awareness of your body, brings peace, and reduces anxiety. And anxiety is, by the way, a very interesting thing that I'm thinking about in relation to yoga, psychotherapy, and Buteyko method. I think it's much more complex than I think Buteyko method presents. That's my personal opinion, but there's definitely a huge value in Buteyko method. So all of this is quite noticeable in my practice with people.
So you mentioned earlier in the conversation some health challenges that you went through. Where are you at now with your health, and where do you want to take your breathing practice from here?
I feel much stronger. So there's no doubt that once, as I said, you start working with your breath carefully, you start noticing that it's only indication of your body's health. In fact, the whole idea of health changes somehow, which is very interesting to me. You start living more through the body rather than just next to your body. And I find that this is the most profound experience of health. In terms of my health, I can't really say. I feel great. But as I said, I went through a sort of stage just recently where I was not that good, and I suffered from allergies, and my breath was not great at all. But I came out of it, and it gives you that hope, and it gives you this deep understanding of what's going on with you. So we'll see.
It sounds like you're doing some amazing things in this world. Any final thoughts you would like to share, especially for anybody who just doesn't know if they want to try this or are unsure about the program? Any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I think that if I were to do it again, I would stay open-minded, curious, and just get a bit more trust in the fact that it's not the sole method that is going to enrich your life, but it's definitely one of those things that one should try and just see for themselves. So light, joyful, and curious. That's what I would recommend.
Perfect. It's been really great sharing space with you today. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your stories. As we know, stories in and of themselves are medicinal. So thank you for sharing your story with our community today.
Thank you very much, Terry. It was fun. Thank you.